Hello and welcome. Peace and love out there to everyone who has come to partake and watch this video. Thank you for being here. Um, so I just read this quote and it provoked a lot of emotion and a lot of understanding. And so I just decided to read this whole oracle card as I was going through my day and going through various tasks. And I just decided to check in. And it is very spot on with, the season of life. As, we go through different seasons of life that teach us a lot of things about who we are. They also teach us a lot of things about others. And, it's important for us at times to gain that understanding and that perspective to allow us to be able to open up with more awareness, with more compassion, and to liberate ourselves through knowledge, through witnessing, through seeing and experiencing, because it is through those things that we learn life and how to dance with it. Sometimes in a cha-cha, sometimes in a tango, and sometimes in a waltz, and sometimes in, a downward spiral into oblivion. I don't know. There's so many different ways that happens. And it's about finding, forgiveness and gaining different attributes and awareness of ourselves and the world outside of us and being okay with that, cultivating a better, more well-rounded idea of ourselves and understanding our polarity and how it shifts from one thing to another, and how that allows us to have a broader spectrum of understanding in the world as a whole, because there is so much information to come upon, to grasp, to understand, and to experience. And obviously, there's no way to experience it all in one lifetime, so we getting reincarnated to gain experience and to gain knowledge and to gain wisdom and to gain insights and to be able to evolve as human beings, and not just in our humanness but in our spirit, and then in the world as a whole, that there is a cause and effect in everything. So it allows us to be able to create better and newer circumstances for ourselves as well as for others through our knowledge, which is our power. So as I have this beautiful card, the Maiden card. Oh, that is not going to do you any justice, is it? No. Okay. The Maiden card. The Maiden. Innocence. The light aspect of something that lives within each one of us, whether we're male or female, because I'm sure that it can identify in a masculine sense if necessary, in some way, shape, or form. But the shadow aspect being prudishness, the shadow aspect, and understanding the difference. So this beautiful quote that provoked this massive amount of emotion was, how do we become who we are in the world? That's a big question. The answer? We ask the world to teach us. But we have to ask with an open heart, with no idea what the answer will be. That's pretty intense and pretty profound. And if we are unafraid, it can be beautiful. But if we have fear, that can keep us afraid to live in life and to experience life and to allow life to show us and guide us through 4, 5, 6 different experience in life, that experiences, because it won't just be one, it will be many, more than likely, that will guide us to our evolution and our progression as we engage and learn and understand who we are and what works for us and what suits us. 521. And who's for us and who's not for us, and not in a sense of how do I put that in the correct context and words? We should want to surround ourselves with people who respect who we are, who honor who we are, and vice versa, who say, I honor you, namaste, I see you. And regardless of what I see, I honor what it is, but that having to be like an equal crossroads, that's not just a one-way street. That has to be something that is immediate too, where you just honor people for who they are. And then if that is something that does not fit within the constructs of our lives, then we allow it to leave, to be shed, to be let go, because there's no use of holding on to something or someone that does not belong in our lives, in our vicinity, in our reality, in our space. Or that doesn't mean that we can't share kindness, because kindness is free, and it's the most simple way to just respect and honor another human being, regardless of whether they are doing the same in return. Or you could just give them a big, that works too. But whatever you choose, just make sure that when you choose, that you have the ability to honor your choices and not feel bad about tearing people a new a-hole, because sometimes that's what people need, but also that can add more problems to a problem than become a solution. So that is something really important to think about. So anyways, I'm going to read this card so I can hurry up and stop talking, because I'm already sick of hearing myself and looking at myself in this camera. So the Maiden card is, it says, Maiden's hour is dawn, and her season is spring. And spring is upon us. Today is April 1st. It is a full pink moon. It is a change in seasons. It is a full pink moon in Libra, which is coming into balance and beauty in life and in all things. And spring is a symbolism of 757, renewal, new beginnings. And we are, we just have entered, we just have exited, or today we're exiting Mercury retrograde, but we are entering the new year, cyclically in the truth of rhythm of nature, honoring the truth and not the calendar year of the Gregorian calendar, but understanding that when life begins to stir in nature is when the real new year does actually begin. And so we are now entering the season of the fire horse and creating movement and momentum into, a new season and a new era after we've gone through the last, season of life, possibly, the last era of life, and creating space and room for more evolution, more expansion, more maybe possibilities in life. More to come. ... To be continued as the year goes on and we unfold moment by moment and day by day. The Maiden's hour is dawn, and her season spring, symbolizing eternal possibility and growth. Drawing the Maiden card conjures a youthful phase of your life, when all kinds of becoming are in play. Maiden portends blossoming. Her reflection is the waxing moon moving towards fullness. She embodies innocence and self-confidence and independence. When Maiden is your hand, It's time to dive into an uncorrupted, virginal aspect of yourself and allow life to show you what it needs to show you. To be fearless in the pursuit, 1010, of newness. As you embark on this voyage of discovery, your assignment is to explore with abandon. Maiden is unburdened by preconceptions, opinions, and set ways. Eager to learn, she is comfortable with what she doesn't know. When Maiden appears, it's time to enjoy the freshness of beginner's mind and an attitude of openness coupled with innocence. Whatever wild and holy reckonance, mission excites your spirit, embrace the new life it brings. Virgin, often used interchangeably with the maiden, comes from the Greek word for one unto herself. 111. As the non-relational aspect of the feminine in all her glory, she stands her own ground, free of enmeshments, and pleases herself above all. She follows her inner drive towards development and developing the unique gifts that are her birthright. Maiden invites you to step out of the idea that anyone completes you and to reimagine your own self-completion and follow your own values. Reach for the sacrosanct places within yourself, inside, and be deeply immersed in a love deeper, even than romantic love, devout and pure. As Maiden verges on the transformation from innocence to experience, endeavor to keep your wonder and integrity. But be aware of being overly prim. Don't protect yourself from experience through some misguided idea of self-preservation. Inhibition lurks in purity's window. If you harbor a fear of genuine sensuality, of intimacy embodied and expressed through the body, the best way through may be to re-envision your intact capacity for pleasure. A card of passage and initiation, Maiden reflects to you that well begun is half done. Anything undertaken with joy will make completion effortless. When we become excited about life and the possibilities, and we allow ourselves to open up those doorways or pathways or new voids into experience, 1331 and 333. It creates and cultivates this wonder that we allow to take over the experience of life. And by not having by letting go of control, that does not mean not having self-control. That means letting go of control. That's two totally different things. Allowing life to open up and lead and guide us into the places that we need to go to be discovered or rediscovered or uncovered, and to find deeper sets of truth. Interestingly enough, I've experienced, that's the wrong card. I've experienced the Maiden season before in a very, very magical way, in a very simple way, actually, in a very, very innocent, simple way. Excuse me. And It's extraordinarily beautiful when we open up our minds and hearts to the infinite possibilities of abundance that come from the outside as well as within us, because abundance is a mindset, and it's an ability to be able to rationalize what we're receiving in the world, which sometimes, we want it to be these grandiose 15 things in the world, Lamborghinis and mansions and whatever, millions of dollars, which are all wonderful things, I suppose, if that's what you're, honoring or what is honest to you. But I think sometimes we must question those things and why it is that we feel we want them. Yes, they're nice. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes, in order to appreciate things like that on an astronomical level, because those are giant things, those are very expensive and lavish things, sometimes we have to learn to find appreciation in the simplicities of life. Because sometimes you could be handed a whole life on a silver platter and not know how to receive it or digest it, because you don't have the ability to hold the capacity for appreciation or wonder or the significance of it all. Being able to tap into the truth of who we are unabashedly and receive the innocence that lives within us forever, regardless of how old we get, in the years that we choose to inhabit this life, we will always and infinitely be able to tap into different aspects of who we are, the innocence of the maiden. And to be able to find that at any given moment in our life's journey is sometimes a savior, in a sense. To give ourselves the freedom to drop our guards and just allow life to show us a different experience, whether that be full or whether that be empty. Because sometimes, even in the vastness of 1717, emptiness, there is so much fullness to be found. And sometimes in the fullness, so much emptiness to be found. Everything lies in the eye of the beholder and the understander and the receiver who is interpreting whatever experience they're having. Being able to tap into the innocence of the endless amounts of experience that we have to be able to uncover in this life, that is massive. Because we really do live in a world where the possibilities are endless. The only thing that really gets in our way is ourselves. And if someone else is getting in our way, then we are giving that power and we are saying, here, this is for you. You can have this. Hold the key to my life. No. You have to understand what that power exchange is and why it's there, and get rid of it. Release it and allow yourself to live free. Liberate from preconceptions and opinions and set ways of yourself and others. Sometimes we don't understand how freeing it is to, live life on the edge and in sometimes even the simplest ways. For instance, I will give an example. It was really, really hot one summer. Oh my gosh, I was so sweaty. I was so hot. And I lived in this little tiny house that didn't have air conditioning. And it didn't have the greatest cross breeze, but I loved it. It was a great place to live, mostly. It certainly had its problems, but it was mostly great. But it was so hot, and I don't know what I was doing. I don't know if it was, it might have been New Year, or not New Year's. It might have been 4th of July in the middle of the summer. And it was so hot. And I wanted to go swimming so bad. And it was like 10 o'clock at night. And I think it was after the fireworks were done. And I was like, I wish I knew someone who had a pool. And I didn't. I didn't know anybody that had a pool. Actually, I did, but I never would be like, hey, can I come use your pool at 10 o'clock at night? Because most pools are not open at 10 o'clock at night. So I just so happened to drive past this complex of these, it's, oh, what do you call that? Because it's not an apartment. It wasn't an apartment complex. It's houses. It's houses. And then there was a pool in this, you know, why can I not think of that word? It doesn't even matter. Hopefully you get a visual because I don't have the word for that to describe it at this moment. An estate? No, that's not the word. Anyways, I pulled in because I was driving by and I saw a pool and I pulled in and I was like looking around and there were no people and there were no cameras and I was like, I'm hot and I want to take a swim and I'm not scared to jump this fence and jump in this pool right now, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. That is what I did. And it was like the most refreshing, rejuvenating swim that I probably ever had. And I will never forget it because I didn't ask for permission. I didn't wait for someone to be like, oh yeah, go ahead. You know, let me knock on the door and ask someone if it's okay. Is it okay if we go use your pool? And I was like ready for the consequences of what was going to happen. If I was going to get caught, then I was going to be like, I'm sorry, it was hot. I just wanted to take a swim. I'm not doing anything, you know? I'm not breaking anything. I'm not drinking. I'm not loitering. I'm not destroying anything. I'm not vandalizing anything. I literally just wanted to get wet. So I wanted to go in the pool. So I did. And sometimes we have to make choices for ourselves and be ready to deal with the consequences of our actions fearlessly, especially when we know we're really not hurting anyone or doing anything. I was so quiet. So quiet. Because it wasn't about being a hoodlum. It was about just refreshing myself and wanting to cool the F off. It was hot. It's hot. It's the middle of freaking summer. And it was so hot. And I just wanted to go swimming. So I did. And I didn't get in trouble. I didn't get caught because I wasn't doing anything wrong. Although in all actuality, in a sense, I was, but wasn't. Because there are destructive ways to make choices and liberate ourselves and to not worry about the consequences of our choices. What are they going to do? Come and tell me to leave? I'm sorry, ma'am, you need to get out of the pool. Okay. Thanks. Have a nice day. I remember walking in the woods with someone one time and there was a sign that said like, don't walk here or something. And I was like, we're not walking all the way around. We're going to walk through and we're just going to cut down because we can walk right through here and get to where we want to go. And 333, the person was afraid. And I was like, it's going to be okay because we're just going to cut through here and no one's even going to know that we're doing it because no one's even going to see us. And we're not hurting anything. We're literally just walking. It's not someone's private property. We're not breaking anything. We're not damaging anything. It's sort of it's sort of breaking down the barriers of things like that are actually extraordinarily silly because they liberate us. And it's not because we're just, a rebel without a cause. It's because there are some things in life that keep us from having, these beautiful experiences or, breaking down someone else's ideas of something that keep us from experiencing something that is really not that big of a deal, that isn't really going to hurt anything or hinder anything or destroy anything or hurt anyone, which is what the basis of things are. When we're liberating ourselves and we're experiencing ourselves in confidence and independence, we do so innocently, understanding that we're not coming in like, I'm coming to set the world on fire. Well, but in a sense, yes, but just not in a destructive sense, in a like light it up, like, with innocent goodness. And um our authenticity, and our truth, and honoring ourselves, and then being able to, receive the consequences of that, whatever that looks like on the other end. And if it not be something too terrible, then, it's fine. It's like tapping into our inner child. If we were a child and we couldn't read the sign and we did that, are we going to be in trouble for that? No, we're not. It is not to, lie and be like, oh, I can't read, or, I didn't see the sign, if that's not true. Oh no, I saw the sign, but I just decided to walk through it anyways because I was like, I'm taking a shortcut. I'm not walking all the way around, or I was hot and I needed a pool, so I just jumped in and didn't hurt anybody, and no one ever knew I was there. Until now. Now you know. Um These are my secrets, my skeletons in my closet that you're not allowed to know, but here we are having this conversation, and that's fine because sometimes it's those things that make life feel alive. It's those things that breaks us out of the mundane and the fear mongering and the scarcity and the, oh my gosh, don't do the wrong thing or we're all going to hell, because we know how heavy that looms over us sometimes when we're not really trying to do anything wrong. We're just trying to experience life on our own terms and break down our own boundaries and walls and barriers of what keeps us from feeling like we're caged animals that can't move because, God forbid, maybe we might bite somebody. I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, this got a little weird and a little wild at the end, but that's fine. Bringing out the wild and holy resonance of what excites our spirit, I think, is one of the things that we need to 717 tap into and understand more frequently and more often in life, because it is like the pure essence of a lot of really beautiful things. It gives us the ability to experience life from a higher perspective outside of rigid contexts and terms, but to allow ourselves the freedom to just be like, here we are. If we die, we die. Are we gonna live in fear the whole time because we're afraid to die, or we're afraid to live? Are you afraid to what are you afraid of? What are you willing to live for? What are you willing to die for? Asking ourselves those questions. But how do we become who we are in the world? Giant question mark and a giant fill in the blank and an enormous infinite canvas of color and possibility that we have the ability to express and experience every single day. And that is a beautiful and magnificent thing. A beautiful and magnificent thing. So I dare you to ask the world what it can teach you this spring and this season, and allow yourself to be able to be liberated and receive with an open heart. Allow yourself to create no expectation of what that should look like and be open to the possibilities of receiving. I send you peace and love and inspiration for beautiful things. Thank you for being here. Be well.